Attention Disney fans, the time has come. We want to know which Disney ideas were totally plagiarized. Get ready to find out just how many Disney movies were actually rip-offs of other films, and prepare to be shocked. Number 1. If you love The Lion King as much as the rest of us, we've got some news for you. We love Simba, but do you know about Kimba? Yep, they didn't even bother changing the name very much when they ripped off Kimba the White Lion.
Tell me it's not true.
It's true.
Kimba the White Lion is an anime from the 1960s that was adapted from a 50s manga. And if you haven't heard of it, well, that's pretty much what Disney was counting on when they made The Lion King. Okay, so the creators of The Lion King actually maintain that the similarities between Simba's story and Kimba's story are pure coincidence. But not only are the plots and characters shockingly similar, but there are some moments that are so close to being shot-for-shot copies, we can barely believe our eyes. Number 2. The Little Mermaid ripped off another famous film, and you probably actually know the one. This copycat situation definitely isn't as egregious as Simba and Kimba, but the creators of The Little Mermaid ultimately admitted to their plagiarism. In this case, it's because they actually plagiarized themselves. Like many Disney movies, The Little Mermaid got its music courtesy of the legendary writing duo Alan Menken and Howard Ashman. Back in the 80s, this pair also wrote and composed the music for a little comedy horror musical called Little Shop of Horrors. Yep, that one. While you probably know both of these films and may not realize the similarities, it mostly comes from the film's famous ballads Part of Your World and Somewhere That's Green. Yes, these two songs have a lot in common with each other, but Menken and Ashman likely didn't realize that when writing Part of Your World. So ultimately, we're just grateful that they gave us these two iconic soundtracks. Number 3. Aladdin sure is a lot like The Thief and the Cobbler. If you're wondering what exactly The Thief and the Cobbler is, that's probably because this animated film never actually came out. Development for this movie started in the 60s and was worked on for 30 years. Then in 1992, Aladdin took the world by storm.
I don't trust him, sire.
Nonsense.
While The Thief and the Cobbler never premiered in full, some clips that have been released make it clear just how much Aladdin borrowed from the film. From the animation style to the plot, and even the very Jafar-like antagonist Zigzag, there are plenty of similarities. It's also important to note that many of the folks who worked on the animation for The Thief and the Cobbler ultimately abandoned ship to work on Aladdin instead. Interesting. Very interesting. We actually feel kind of bad for Zigzag because he never got to terrify us as children the way this guy did. Number 4. Oh hey, it's that scene from Up. But that's definitely not Carl Fredricksen. Yes, while this house flying through the air powered by balloons does look familiar, this is actually a French short film that a student at the ESRA film school named Yannick Banchereau produced back in 2006. In this film, an old woman attempts to save her house from being destroyed by sending it up into the sky. In a book called The Art of Up, director Pete Docter revealed that he first created Carl Fredricksen in 2004, 2 years before Above Then Beyond was released, and 5 years before Up premiered. That doesn't explain where and when the idea for the floating house came about, however.
You will have to swear you will not tell anyone.
It's also important to note that Pixar allegedly had a relationship with the ESRA Film School, which makes it more likely that someone at Pixar actually saw Above Then Beyond. Stealing someone else's art is never cool, but a major corporation stealing student work feels particularly low.
That's typical.
Number 5. Did Coco remind you of the 2014 animated flick The Book of Life? Yep, us too. And the list of reasons is pretty long. These films share musician protagonists, guitar music, Day of the Dead related plot lines, and many, many more similarities. While The Book of Life premiered in 2014, director Jorge R. Gutierrez came up with the idea for the project back in the early 2000s. Apparently, Lee Unkrich thought up Coco in 2010, and the movie was ultimately released in 2017. Number 6. Cars is a pretty original movie, right? How many talking car movies are there anyway? We said talking, Herbie. Well, like the others on our list, we think that Cars ripped off another movie's idea. Unlike the others, this one copied a live-action film. Cars has almost the exact storyline of Doc Hollywood. Of course, Michael J. Fox's titular character in the 1991 film isn't an anthropomorphic car, but the rest is pretty darn close. Number 7. WALL-E has a pretty original plot, but its antagonist? not so much.
I insist you give me the plan.
If Otto seems familiar to you, you may have been thinking about HAL 9000 from 2001: A Space Odyssey. Not only do these two look a lot alike, but they have some very similar life goals, which are pretty bad news for humans. Number 8. If you love Treasure Planet, then you'd surely also like Titan AE. Titan AE premiered in 2000, 2 years before Treasure Planet came out. From their unique animation styles to their plot lines, these movies have plenty in common, but it's even more clear that something fishy went on here when you learn that these movies were actually in production together for years. So, what do you think? Were these copycat moments a little too close for comfort, or mere creative coincidences? Let's talk about it in the comments. And if you love videos like this one, make sure to like and subscribe to The Things Animated for more.